The night side of the drowned planet was endless and dark. Lightning moved across the thick clouds like veins of silver fire. Commander Eli Vance sat alone in the cockpit of his small Terran exploration cruiser, his hands resting quietly on the control surface. He had been sent to chart the remains of this forgotten system, but he had found only ruins, silence, and rain that never stopped. The galaxy had long declared this world dead, flooded centuries ago by orbital strikes, poisoned oceans, and storms that never faded. No ships came here anymore. No life was supposed to exist, but tonight, something strange broke the silence. A faint ping, a signal, repeating, broken, desperate. Eli frowned and turned the scanner toward the sound. It was weak, almost gone, but the rhythm was too deliberate to be random noise. 3 pulses, a pause, then 2. It wasn't machine chatter. It was a distress beacon. He leaned closer, adjusting the gain. Source located? The ship's I said in a calm voice. Southern Hemisphere, submerged city ruins. Approximately 12 kilometers below current orbit, Eli's heart began to pound. There shouldn't be anyone down there. Still, he whispered to himself, if someone's calling for help, we answer. He powered the descent thrusters, cutting through the storm. The ship shook violently as lightning exploded across the clouds. Rain lashed against the hull like a million tiny bullets. Visibility dropped to almost nothing, but he kept going. Guided by the weak pulse of the beacon, minutes passed like hours. Then, through the static and fog, his sensors caught something. A small energy field, flickering, collapsing, then holding again. Inside that field, faint organic readings. 2 of them. Eli's breath caught. 2 life signs, he whispered, by all stars. Survivors. The cruiser landed on a broken platform half buried underwater. Metal groaned under its weight, waves crashing against the sides. Eli grabbed his helmet, sealed it, and stepped out into the rain. The storm screamed around him, wind tearing at his suit. Through the waterlogged ruins he moved, following the beacon's echo. Every flash of lightning showed shattered towers, twisted steel, the skeletons of a city lost to time. Finally, he found it, a small dome of light under a collapsed bridge. Inside, 2 shapes huddled together. An alien woman with pale, scaled skin and deep violet eyes, holding a small child close to her chest. They looked terrified, exhausted, but alive. Eli knelt beside them, lowering his weapon to show peace. I'm human, he said slowly, his voice calm and steady. You're safe now. The woman flinched, her eyes wide with fear. Her species, the Lyran, had once fought against humanity in the Great Expansion Wars. She must have thought he was here to finish what the galaxy had started. But Eli only extended his hand. You called for help, he said softly. I heard you, for a long moment. The rain was the only sound. Then, slowly, she nodded. Her hand trembled as she reached out, placing the child into his arms. The boy's skin was warm and faintly glowing under the dim light. He was breathing, but barely. Eli pressed a small injector against the child's neck. Giving him air and warmth from his medkit, the child stirred weakly, eyes opening just enough to see the human's face. The alien mother's lips parted, a whisper in a language he didn't understand. But he could read her eyes. It was gratitude, mixed with disbelief. He activated his comms. Command, this is Explorer 9. I've found survivors, he said. Voice shaking with adrenaline. Static answered. Then a sharp tone, negative, Commander, came the cold reply. That world is under quarantine. You are to withdraw immediately. Eli stared out into the endless storm. Withdraw? He repeated, There's a mother and a child down here. Protocol is clear, the voice replied. No rescue attempts authorized. Contamination risk unacceptable. the signal cut off, leaving only the sound of thunder and rain. Eli stood there in silence, his mind racing. He looked at the two survivors, then at the sky where the clouds swallowed the stars. If he left now, they would die. If he disobeyed, he would lose his command, maybe even his citizenship. But then the child's small hand moved. Clutching his sleeve, Eli exhaled slowly. He made his choice. He lifted the mother and child carefully, bringing them back to his ship through the storm. Once inside, he closed the hatch and sealed it. The ship's AI spoke. "Commander, unauthorized life forms detected." "Override," Eli said firmly. "Initiate emergency lift." As the engines roared to life and the cruiser rose through sheets of rain, he looked at them, fragile, scared, but alive. "Don't worry," he whispered. "You're not alone anymore." Outside, lightning split the sky open one last time, and for a brief moment, the reflection of the ship glowed across the drowned world. A single human light defying an ocean of darkness. The storm still howled outside as Eli's cruiser climbed through the dense clouds. Lightning flashed again and again, painting the cockpit in pale blue light. Water streamed down the hull like tears as the engine struggled against the heavy air. Inside, the human commander's breath fogged the visor of his helmet. But he didn't stop. He had 2 lives in his hands now, and he would not fail them. The alien mother lay on a medical cot, her scaled skin trembling from cold and exhaustion. Beside her, the small child slept under a thermal blanket, his chest rising slowly. Eli watched the readings, the child's heart rate weak but steady. Relief washed over him like warmth after ice. He removed his helmet and sat beside them, his expression softening. "Don't worry," he whispered, voice low. "You're safe now." The alien woman opened her eyes, confusion and fear written across her face. Her voice came weakly, full of broken syllables. "You? Human?" she asked. Eli nodded gently. "Yes," he said. "Human." She blinked, trying to understand. "War." "Ended?" she murmured, the word trembling like wind. "It ended long ago," Eli replied quietly. "But the hurt stayed longer than it should have." She looked down at her child and then back to him. Her eyes said what her words could not. Why would a human help them? After everything, Eli turned his gaze to the window, watching thunder roll across the sky. "Because we remember," he said finally. "We remember what mercy means." The ship jolted suddenly. "Alarms beeping. Warning," said the AI. "Energy surge detected. Atmospheric turbulence increasing." Eli gritted his teeth, pulling the controls tighter. The storm wasn't letting them go easily. The cruiser shook violently, bolts snapping, panels flickering. He forced the thrusters to full power, driving the ship upward. Finally, with a burst of light, they broke through the top of the storm into the calm above. For the first time, the stars were visible again. Eli leaned back in his seat, exhausted but relieved. "Made it," he breathed. But the peace didn't last long. The communication console blinked red. Incoming message from Terran Command. He hesitated before opening it, already knowing what he'd hear. "Commander Vance," the voice said, cold and mechanical. "You have violated direct orders. You are instructed to return immediately to base for debriefing and containment. Failure to comply will result in termination of your command license." Eli stared at the console for a long moment. He looked at the alien mother and child, still fragile, still alive. He turned off the transmission without answering. "Not this time," he whispered. "I won't abandon them." He set the ship's course for the nearest neutral zone, a distant refueling outpost not aligned with any government. Fuel was low, supplies limited, but he would make it. He always did. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the hum of the engines and the faint sound of the child breathing. Eli worked quietly, repairing systems, checking oxygen, keeping himself awake with black coffee and stubborn hope. The alien mother watched him carefully, her fear beginning to fade into something new: trust. She spoke softly, her voice halting but sincere. "Why? Risk everything?" He paused, then smiled faintly. "Because someone has to." She looked at him for a long time before nodding slowly. She reached for his hand, placing a small metallic charm in his palm, a piece of her people's symbol, shaped like a spiral of light. "For protection," she said simply. Eli held it gently, the small charm glowing faintly in the dim cabin. "Thank you," he whispered suddenly. The radar flashed again. A red blip appeared on the screen. Fast, closing distance. Eli's heart sank. "Unidentified ship approaching," the AI reported. "Probable Galactic patrol drone." They had found him. He quickly dimmed the lights and dropped the cruiser's power output to minimum. "Hold on," he muttered. "We're not getting caught." The alien mother clutched her child tighter, eyes wide with fear. Outside, the stars flickered as the drone's search beam swept across the void. Eli maneuvered the ship through the shadow of a dead moon, hiding among its debris field. Every second felt endless. The drone's scanners buzzed through the silence. For a moment, it seemed to move away, then it turned back. Heading directly for them, Eli cursed under his breath. "Guess we're doing this the hard way." He pushed the engines, breaking stealth and diving through the moon's shadow. The drone fired, blue plasma streaking past the ship. Eli's cruiser twisted, dodging between asteroids, sparks lighting up the cabin. The alien child woke, frightened by the noise. Eli shouted over the alarms. "Hang on, little one. We're not done yet." The ship took a hit. Alarms screaming, but Eli didn't slow down. He fired back. A pulse cannon striking the drone's wing, it spiraled, exploding into fragments that burned like falling stars. Silence returned. Eli exhaled, shoulders dropping. The alien mother looked at him with awe. He gave her a tired smile. Still alive. He checked the navigation. They were off course, drifting toward the outer rim, but for now, they were safe. He turned to her and said softly, "I promised you'd be okay, and I don't break promises." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, cold and bright, and somewhere behind them, the storm they escaped still raged, but could not touch them anymore. The stars outside the cockpit looked calm, but Eli knew peace in space never lasted long. The cruiser's warning lights still flickered from the last battle, and the hull was scorched black from plasma burns. Every system was running on backup power. Fuel low, shields weak, but they were still alive. The alien mother sat near the child, wrapping a silver blanket around him. The boy slept soundly now. Breathing evenly, Eli glanced back at them, a small smile touching his lips. They had escaped the planet, outrun the storm, and survived a drone attack. That was enough for one day, but deep inside, he knew the real danger had only begun. Galactic patrol drones rarely hunted alone. Where there was one, others followed. He tapped the console, scanning the nearby sectors. No signals yet, but the silence felt too heavy, too clean. He adjusted the navigation, setting course toward the neutral corridor, a narrow region between human and alien territories where no government had full control. If he could make it there, he could hide them, at least for a while. As the ship glided through the empty void, the alien woman watched him quietly. Her name, he had learned, was Sira. Her people once lived across 3 worlds before the floods destroyed them. Now only she and her child remained. Eli didn't ask how they survived. The look in her eyes told him enough. He tried to lighten the silence. "Your boy's strong," he said. "He made it through hell." Sira nodded softly. her voice almost a whisper. He sings to the storms. Eli blinked, not sure if she was serious. Then she explained in broken words. Lyran children. They carry sound harmonies. Their voices can change energy fields. He stared at her in surprise. You mean he can affect frequencies? She nodded. When scared, he hums. The sound protects us. Eli leaned back, thinking. The child's hum might have interfered with the drone sensors earlier. Maybe that's how they got lucky. Maybe it wasn't luck at all. Suddenly, the ship's radar beeped again. 3 red dots appeared on the screen, approaching fast. Unidentified crafts detected, said the AI, voice calm but urgent. Pursuers inbound. Eli clenched his jaw. They're not giving up. He threw the cruiser into motion, thrusters roaring as they dived toward a thin asteroid belt. Rocks tumbled through space like drifting mountains. Eli wove between them, pushing the engines to their limits. The alien ships followed close behind, firing plasma bolts that exploded against the asteroids, lighting the void with fire. Hold on. Eli shouted, gripping the controls. The ship shook violently as debris scraped across its hull. He twisted sharply left, then rolled downward, dodging another blast inside the cabin. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Sira held the child tight, shielding him from the smoke. The boy woke, frightened, and began to hum, a soft, trembling sound that filled the cabin with strange resonance. The lights flickered, then stabilized. Eli's sensors spiked for a moment, enemy targeting systems dropping off. The alien ships suddenly veered off course, their engines sputtering. Eli glanced at the readings, eyes wide. What in the stars? Sira whispered. He's helping you. The hum grew louder, deeper. Outside, the stars seemed to vibrate, the plasma fire bending away like it was repelled by invisible hands. Eli grinned. Well, kid? Looks like you're part of the crew now. He used the moment to dive through a narrow asteroid tunnel, cutting engines and letting momentum carry them forward in darkness. The pursuers fired blindly, but their shots went wide. Missing completely, Eli waited, silent. Counting seconds, finally, the radar cleared. No signals. They were gone. The ship floated quietly now. Hidden among drifting stones, Eli let out a long breath. His hands trembling from adrenaline, he turned back toward Sira and her son. You both did great, he said softly. Remind me to never underestimate a Lyran child. Sira smiled faintly for the first time. You. Brave, she said. He chuckled. Just stubborn after a while. The boy stopped humming and fell asleep again. Eli turned off the emergency lights, letting only the faint glow of stars fill the cabin. It was quiet again, peaceful for the first time in days. But peace never lasted long for people who broke the rules. The ship's long-range comms suddenly blinked. An encrypted message came through. From Terran Command, Eli hesitated, then opened it. Commander Vance, the message began. Your signal has been traced. You are charged with direct violation of Galactic Regulation 47A, harboring enemy species and tampering with restricted sectors. Surrender immediately to the nearest outpost. Failure to comply will result in termination of your license and arrest. Eli read the message silently, his eyes narrowing. He turned it off without a word. Sira watched him carefully. They hunt you now? He nodded. Yeah, he said softly. I guess saving lives is a crime these days. He stood up, checking the nav systems again. There was one place left, a hidden outpost near the edge of neutral space, run by old Terran explorers who owed him a few favors. If he could reach it, they might have a chance. He looked at Sira and her sleeping son. Don't worry, he said, voice firm but gentle. I promised I'd get you to safety, and I will. Sira lowered her head slightly. Humans, she whispered, always strange. But kind, Eli smiled faintly, turning back to the stars. The engines hummed quietly as the cruiser began to move again. Outside, the asteroid belt shimmered behind them. Fading into the distance, ahead lay the cold light of the neutral border. And beyond that, a galaxy that wanted them gone. But Eli Vance had made a promise. And he wasn't the kind of human who broke one. The neutral zone stretched before them like a sea of silver dust. Stars shimmered in every direction, but Eli felt no peace. His cruiser drifted through the void. Running on half power, its hull cracked and engines tired. Every warning light blinked like a heartbeat. Steady but fading, Sierra sat beside her child, whispering soft words in her language. The boy clutched a small crystal, a remnant of their lost world, and hummed quietly as he slept. Eli watched them from the cockpit. His eyes weary but alert. He had made it this far. But safety was still far away. He opened a secured channel, sending a coded message to an old contact, Captain Dara Niles. A former Terran officer turned station runner. She owed him her life. And Eli was hoping that still meant something. Minutes later, the screen flickered to life. A woman's voice answered, calm but cautious. Vance. You're supposed to be dead, Eli smiled faintly. Almost was, he replied. Need a place to dock. Quietly. Not with the heat on you, Dara said, her tone sharp. Command's broadcasting your face on every network. Calling you a traitor. Yeah, Eli muttered. I figured they wouldn't send flowers. He paused, then added, please, Dara. It's not just me. I've got 2 survivors, a woman and a child. They need medical care. There was a long silence on the line. Finally, Dara sighed. Sending coordinates, she said. You've got 1 hour. After that, I can't protect you. Eli leaned back in his chair, relief mixing with dread. 1 hour, he whispered. Let's make it count. The small cruiser descended toward Haven's edge. A massive trade station orbiting a dying red star. Its metal rings glowed faintly, surrounded by hundreds of small cargo ships. Eli guided the damaged cruiser into Dock 12, hidden beneath the shadow of an old freighter. As the airlock hissed open, he turned to Sierra. We'll be safe here for a little while. They stepped out onto the platform, the air thick with the scent of oil and smoke. The corridors were narrow, full of traders, mercenaries, and refugees from every corner of the galaxy. No one asked questions here, and no one offered help without reason. But when Dara Niles appeared, dressed in a long gray coat and carrying a datapad, heads turned. She still carried authority, even outside the fleet. Eli, she said quietly, looking him over. You look like hell. He grinned faintly. Been through worse. Then she noticed Sierra and the child, her expression softening. So it's true, she said. You really saved them. Eli nodded. Someone had to. Dara sighed. You realize the council's going to make an example out of you, right? They're already holding an inquiry, humanity's first in decades. Eli raised an eyebrow. An inquiry? For saving 2 lives? She shook her head. They'll call it contamination, protocol violation, interference. They always find a name for mercy when they want to punish it. Eli looked away, his jaw tightening. Then let them judge, he said softly. I'll still stand by what I did. Dara watched him for a moment, then handed him a small chip. Upload this to the public net if they come for you, she said. It'll show them everything. Your mission logs, your transmissions. The proof that you saved innocents. Eli took it carefully. Why help me? She smiled faintly. Because once you saved me when Command ordered you not to. Guess I learned something from that. Before they could say more, a deep alarm echoed through the station. Attention! A robotic voice announced, incoming Galactic Council vessel. All captains stand by for inspection. Dara's face went pale. They found you faster than I thought. Eli turned to Sira and the boy. Get them to the lower bays, he said. Hide them in the refugee decks. Sira shook her head, her eyes filled with fear. No. They take you. He smiled gently. I'll be fine. I've faced worse than their words. He placed a hand over the boy's head. Keep singing, little one, he said softly. That sound may save more than just you. Moments later, the doors opened and council guards entered. Tall, armored beings from multiple species. They surrounded Eli, their leader stepping forward. Commander Eli Vance, the alien officer announced. You are charged with defying council order and harboring restricted life forms. Eli stood tall, his voice calm. I saved a mother and her child, he said simply. If that's a crime, then I'll take the sentence proudly. They escorted him to the central chamber, a vast hall of light and glass, where members of the Galactic Council sat above in a half-circle. Hundreds of species filled the balconies. Watching the trial unfold, the presiding voice, a tall being with silver skin, spoke with cold precision. You broke quarantine laws and risked contagion to protect enemies of humanity. Eli met their gaze, his voice steady. They weren't enemies. Not anymore, he said. They were people, scared and dying. And we, humans, used to help those in need, the hall murmured. Voices whispering across languages. The silver-skinned judge leaned forward. And you believe your compassion overrides law? Eli's answer came like steel. I believe compassion is the law, or it should be. For a moment, the chamber went silent. Even the alien guards lowered their eyes slightly. In that silence, Eli stood alone, a single man before the galaxy's greatest powers. But in that moment, he looked larger than all of them. The judge finally spoke again, voice softer. Your actions defy reason and order, yet your words remind us of something we forgot. He turned to the council, whispering to the others before returning his gaze to Eli. Your punishment will be reviewed, he said. Until then, you are confined to your ship, under watch. Guards escorted him out, but as he passed the crowd, several alien officers lowered their weapons, a quiet gesture of respect. Somewhere among them, Sira watched from the shadows, tears glimmering in her eyes. Her whisper followed him down the corridor. Protector of the lost, she said softly, in her own language. And even though he could not hear the words, somehow Eli understood. Eli sat inside his cruiser, the same ship that had carried him through storms, battles, and silence. Now it floated quietly in the docking bay, locked in place under guard. Outside the thick glass window, the stars shimmered, distant and cold. He stared at them for hours, his reflection overlapping with the endless night. The council had not spoken to him since the hearing. Days passed without answers. He was allowed food, water, and breath, but not freedom. Still, Eli didn't regret his choice, not even for a heartbeat. Sometimes he could see Sira from afar. Hidden among the refugee decks, she kept her promise. Staying close enough to watch him, the child would press his small hands against the window from a distance. Smiling through the glass, that was enough to remind Eli why he had done all this. One night, as silence broke, the communicator on his desk flickered with a low blue light. A voice whispered through the static. It was Dara. They're debating your sentence, she said quietly. Half of them want to imprison you. The other half want to honor you. Eli smiled faintly. That's progress. I guess. Don't joke, Dara replied. Your story is spreading. People across stations are talking about what you did. Even alien captains are quoting your words. Eli looked down, his tone calm. Then maybe it was worth it. Moments later, the ship's door opened without warning. 2 council guards stepped inside, their weapons lowered. "The council requests your presence," one said. Eli rose, nodding silently, as they led him through the metallic corridors. He noticed something strange. People were watching him not with anger, but with quiet respect. Whispers followed him. "The human captain," they said. "The one who saved the lost." The chamber of the council was bright this time. The same tall judge from before stood in the center, his expression unreadable. "Commander Eli Vance," he said, his voice echoing. After long deliberation, "The council has reached a decision." Eli stood straight, calm but ready for anything. The judge continued. "Your actions violated the rules of quarantine and protocol." A pause followed. "But they reminded the galaxy of something greater than protocol." Murmurs filled the chamber. The judge's silver eyes met Eli's. "In every law, there exists a spirit, the spirit of compassion, of courage, of humanity," he said slowly. "And in saving those who were not your kind, you reminded us of that spirit." Eli didn't speak. His hands resting behind his back, the judge raised a hand. "Your punishment is rescinded," he declared. "You are free to leave." A wave of surprise spread through the hall. Even Eli blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. The judge stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Know this, human," he said. "One act of mercy has changed more hearts than 1,000 wars ever did." As Eli turned to leave, the crowd, human and alien alike, stood in silence. Then, one by one, they began to bow their heads. Not out of duty, but respect outside, in the docking bay. Sira waited with her son. When she saw him, her eyes filled with tears, the child ran to him, wrapping small arms around his leg. Eli knelt down, smiling softly. "You're safe now," he said. "Both of you." Sira held out a glowing crystal, the same one her son had carried. She pressed it into Eli's hand. "For you," she whispered. "Memory of the world you refused to forget." He looked at it. The crystal shimmered with a faint light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "I can't take this," he said, shaking his head gently. Sira smiled. "You already did." He looked at the stars beyond the window. Thousands of worlds, millions of lives, and he realized something simple yet powerful. The galaxy might be vast, cold, and cruel, but as long as humans still cared, there would always be warmth somewhere in the dark. He turned to Dara, who waited near the ship's ramp. "So," he said with a small grin, "what now?" She shrugged lightly. "You could disappear," she said. "Or you could keep doing what you've always done. Find the ones no one else will save." Eli smiled. "Yeah, sounds like me." He climbed back into his ship. The engines humming back to life, Sira and her child stood by, watching as the cruiser slowly rose from the platform. A stream of light followed behind. Cutting across the darkness, Sira whispered softly, "Go, protector of the lost," as the ship disappeared into the horizon. A single message echoed across the neutral channels. One man can still make a difference. It spread through every corner of the galaxy, carried by whispers, transmissions, and stories told in the dark. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, a small human cruiser flew quietly among the stars, its light cutting through the endless night. A reminder that compassion, once given, never truly fades. It only crosses the stars, again and again,